Foster on Kardec Radio, presenting the program Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. Hello, on July 8th, 2018, another wonderful Kardec Radio, Kardec Facebook page live streaming. We've been very lucky. We've had lots of people on Kardec Radio and Kardec face page, Kardec Radio face page site. So it's been just wonderful part. I know we've had our recent anniversary of Kardec Radio, which has been for many years. I think 7 or 8 years. I can't remember, but it's been wonderful. And why are we here? We are here to talk about tonight about spirit assistance. And it all comes from the book that I have written based on the communication from high-level spirits to the Reverend Vale Owen. And this is all about spirit assistance, how they help us. And today, a lot of it is going to be how they help people in the heaven, how they help people even in the lower zone. How do they help us? Whether we are incarnate or discarnate, us, we're not spiritually advanced yet. And how do they help us? How do they help us pass on? How do they help us rise into our levels? That's what we're talking about today. And of course, all this comes from the great codifier of Spiritism, Allan Kardec, in the 1850s, started communicating with, started writing a series of questions that he sent to mediums and to ask high spirits throughout Europe. And he only wrote the answers if more than one or two mediums, more than two mediums, or more than one medium, I should say, agreed on the answer. Again, Allan Kardec. Now, you can go to my blog site, nwspiritism.com, click on his picture. It will take you to the EDI-CEI bookstore. And from there, you can find all of his books. You can find Chico Xavier's books, Yvonne Pierre's, and you can also find them, of course, on Amazon.com. Again, I want to tell you on the Spirits book, and he's written like 5 major books. You can also just put in his name, Allan Kardec, Allan, Kardec, Kardec, and then space PDF, and you'll find all his books on PDF. So again, that's how I started. It didn't cost me anything. Just read a Spirits book. To a lot of people, that's the key. Somehow it just starts this spring of wanting to know more, answering the questions you've had. To me, it's answered all the questions I had since I was in high school, right? And so you started thinking about things, beyond your own little selfish self when you were a child. So, I mean, Spiritism has been revelatory to me, my wife, my family. It's been wonderful. So, and I'm here, and other people are here on the Facebook Kardec Radio page, and I'm here live streaming to kind of tell you exactly why we're here, right? All the things I've learned, and what the Reverend Vale Owen, through the high spirits he communicated with. And then on my book, what I do is I take passages from what high spirits told him, and I also contrast those with passages from what other spirits have told other spiritist mediums to make sure that they all agree with each other. And so we have been getting information from spirits from the spirit universe since the 1850s. And this is something that's additive, always more. They're always telling us as we are technologically and culturally ready, we will be told more. So people who think that everything's in the Old and New Testament is static, well, the spirits tell us the messages of love and fraternity and charity, yes, those are eternal. But other things are in there, things that, you read, you think, well, I'm not sure about that. Why should we go into, Old Testament, go into town and kill everyone? Well, those were written for those people at the time, and best how to talk to them. So that's why now Spiritism is bringing us more information. We're all immortal souls. We're here on earth to learn. We're on earth to learn to become better, more honest, loving, charitable, fraternal people, less selfish, in order to one day to become a pure spirit. So let's get into it. We're going to first talk about, okay, how do spirits help us? So we, in physical form on earth, we forget the multitude of souls who are trapped in a narrow band on or near the surface. And these are spirits who wander the lower zone, also called umbral in Portuguese. You'll see that, and if you'll hear that word if you ever read or look at the movie Astral City, also called No Solar. The book is called No Solar. The movie is called Astral City, which I recommend everybody to go either read or see the movie. And that's where spirits, and as Chico said, the lower zone starts at the tip of our nose, right? It starts at the crust of the earth all the way up to the level of heaven. And the spirits who wander the lower zones, they haven't the spiritual fortitude to understand how to ascend to the first level of heaven, where they will be safe and supported. Instead, they are subjected to cruelties and injustices that stretch our imagination. Now, Christ doesn't forget these souls. All are his children, the incarnates and the discarnates. He sends spiritual workers out to recover as many as possible. Those who are ready to follow light will receive assistance. The Reverend G. Vale Owen's mother, who communicated to him in his book, which is a collection of 4 of his books, Life Beyond the Veil, in the Lowlands of Heaven section, she talks about one such rescue operation. This is what is fascinating about these books. They actually tell you what is going on in the spirit world. And now, this is what she tells them. We received a short message ago of the arrival of a sister at the bridge who had come over from the further side where lies the regions of gloom, and I and another were sent to conduct her to this home. We went quickly and found our charge awaiting us. She was quite alone, for her attendants had left her thus in order that she might profit by a quiet period of meditation and reflection for beginning her further advance. Now, it's interesting is this was, most of this was given in the 1910s, 1920s, a little bit 1930s. And she called, to this home. And I always say, home. In fact, when I talked to a medium in just a couple of years ago, she remembered her past life of assisting spirits when she was in a celestial angelic city, a heavenly city. Again, she called, this was home. They called this was, our home. And of course, in the book, No Solar, it's called Our Home. So you see this, you see this continuity of terms and what they say. So from this, one can also detect the extent of the spirit organization. First, there are guides who find a willing soul in the lower zone. Then others are notified to pick up a spirit at a specified place to finish the trip from just inside the bridge to a colony where she could receive treatment. Now, as they describe in the book, the bridge is the gateway from the lower zone to heaven. Now, there's not just one, right? It's not just like the gates of St. Peter. No, there are many such portals. Each one is guarded so as not to allow unrepentant spirits entry. Only those who have demonstrated a true desire to change are allowed entry. Next, the group finds the woman. This is what she said. She was seated on a slope of grass under a tree whose branches spread like a canopy over her. Her eyes were closed, and we stood before her waiting. When she opened them, she looked at us for some time in an inquiring manner. As she did not speak, I at last addressed her, Sister. At that word, she looked up at us hesitatingly, and then her eyes began to fill with tears, and she put her face in her hands, bowed her head upon her knees, and wept bitterly. So I went to her and laid my hand upon her head and said, You are our sister now, dear, and as we do not weep, so neither must you. How do you know who or what I am? She replied as she raised her face and tried to force back her tears, while there was just a touch of defiance in her voice. We do not know who you are, G. Allen's mother said. What you were, we do know. We know that you were always a child of our father, and so always our sister. Now you are our sister in a fuller sense. What else you are lies with you. You are either one whose face is set toward the sunshine of his presence, or one who, fearing the task before you in that direction, will turn back again across the bridge. She was silent for a while, and then she said, I dare not. It is all too horrible over there. And then Vale Owen's mother said, But you must choose, for you cannot remain where you are, and you will come the upward way, will you not? And we will lend you a sister's hand and give you a sister's love to help you on the way. Then she said, Oh, how I wonder how much of you know what lies yonder. There they called me sister too. They called me sister in mockery, while they heap upon me infamy and torture. Oh, I must not think of it, or it will drive me mad again. But I do not know how I shall proceed. I am so stained, vile, and weak. So there's a lot here. This shows you the repentance of people who pass over, find themselves in the lower zone. There's many different reasons. There's either they're completely materialistic, and even though they were like a nice person, they just could not they could not give up, those ties to earth, or they were not such a nice person, and they were selfish and they hurt other people, and they ended up in the lower zone. But this group, G. Owen's mother and her helper, she helped the woman stand up and make her way towards her destination, a place where the poor soul could recover in peace. But as she made progress, the group could discern that something was holding her back. They found out that when she was detected near the opening of the bridge, a spirit worker went out to help her. Since the spirit worker was at a higher level, she couldn't see her appointed guardian, but felt her presence. Being afraid, she shouted out, "May you be cursed if you touch me." After that, she blacked out and awoke on the other side of the bridge, awaiting the group that came to help her. She felt terrible about the curse she made to one who had come to assist her. Now, think of this. Remember, for us on earth, the mere speaking of words in fear or anger would be quickly forgotten. But in the spirit world, where thought is action, I cannot say that too many times in too many shows. Thought is action. Such negative announcements have real meaning. This is why we're on earth. We are put through all these trials and tribulations so we can start disciplining our minds, not just our mouth, not just what we say, like our mother said, watch what comes out of your mouth. No, we have to discipline our minds too. So when people say negative things or we're scared, we just don't lash out. Even in our thoughts, we don't lash out. So then Vale Owen's mother takes us through what her reasoning was. And she said that she had cursed one of God's ministers, that she was afraid of the light because the words she said were evil. Truly, she did not know whom she had cursed. But a curse is a curse against whomever directed and it lay upon her heart. So the group, they decide, okay, we head back to the gate where the kind spirit, a high spirit, knew of her desire for forgiveness and waited for them. With love in his heart, he smiled and blessed the unfortunate woman. Then once more, the group made her way to the house where she would be allowed to recuperate from her ordeal. Now, these little vignettes, they just tell us so much. They tell us of the love of the spirit world. They also tell us of what can be waiting for those people who have not embraced spirituality, have not embraced love, fraternity at all. It's just unfortunate. It comes from a lack of knowledge of why we are here. And this is why, I and many much more important people who are helping, and it's just not Spiritism, it's other, Spiritism is a doctrine, not a religion, but there's many wonderful people, religious people who say that the need to be spiritual, need to be loved. There's just regular spiritual people who, understand that we are part and parcel of the spirit world. And that's why we're here is to give you a sense of meaning of your life and what is all about us. And this is what it interests me so much about Spiritism and all the information. It's just amazing. And I don't know why I never heard about it, because no one was ever talking about it in the English speaking world. It's just, the blackout of the communication about really what Spiritism has given us is what we're trying to overcome now. There's so much information all about heaven, the levels of heaven. What do we do? And I'm just touching on little parts as I give these talks to people on, Cardiac Radio Facebook page. So now let's talk about another example. Now, who we are and what do we feel when we just pass over from the physical to the spirit realm? Again, this is more information given to us by the wonderful high spirits through spiritist mediums in Spiritism. So what we are told is the transition is difficult for many. We are told about the complexities of adjusting by the Reverend G. Vale Owen's mother, who communicated to him. And she tells us about one person who experienced the learning curve. This is what she told him. This is just so interesting because, as we pass over, we will see these things. This is what she said. I have only lately seen a very learned writer who had published several books talking to a lad who in the earth life was a stoker in a gasworks. Now, what's a stoker? Someone who shovels coals into the boiler, into the heaters. So it can, heat up water or drive, steam engines or whatever. And being instructed by him, he was glad to learn too, for he had partly learned humility. And the curious thing was that he did not so much mind sitting at the feet of this young spirit as going to his old friends here and owning up to past mistakes. and his vanity of intellect in his past life. Okay, I'm going to stop there again. You notice that, one thing that was interesting to me is as I was going through Spiritism, and you hear about this, spirits say, God, I feel regretful. I need to go to that person in spirit or whatever, ask for forgiveness. A lot of it is like you read on Alcoholics Anonymous, right? The 12th, getting God in your life, getting spirituality in your life, asking for forgiveness of what you did. I think a lot of that whole program was divinely inspired. Just wanted to point that out. It's very interesting. I'll go on what you said. This, however, he will have to do sooner or later, and the young lad is preparing him for the task. It is also whimsical for us to see him still clinging to his old pride when we know all about him and his past and present status, which latter is rather low, and all the time trying to think he is hiding his thoughts from us. There's so much in this sentence, right? It's telling us you're an open book in the spirit world. Actually, we're an open book in the physical world. We just don't know it. The spirits around us can read our thoughts. Thoughts, as I've said before in other programs, thoughts go out like we're a radio tower, and spirits can read our thoughts. There's nothing hidden. If you're worried about your privacy and all that here in the physical world, I tell people, don't worry about it. You have none. Just assume you have none. And that's why we have to control our thoughts now. If we can control our thoughts in the physical body, imagine how much better we will be when we are going to heaven and we can think good about everybody. And the other thing it tells us is social positions on earth is no indication of one's place in the hierarchy of the spirit world. A person may be a senator or a chairman of the board of a prestigious company and find themselves at the lowest level after death. I was just reading a passage from from the Spiritist Review, 1858, I believe it was. And this is a series of monthly magazines by Allan Kardec, and he wrote different things each month and each stories. And he talked about in evocations back in the 1850s, they brought this queen back. She was a queen in India, and she says, why are you talking to me? I'm a queen. And he goes, well, did you ever care about other people? No, why? I'm a queen. It was just a fascinating mediums meeting. And she was just saying, why aren't the spirit world giving me, slaves to do my bidding? I don't understand this. I'm a queen. And, she would just not let go that she was this important person and everyone to do what she said, even in the spirit world. And then after the evocation, the spirit, St. Louis, the past king of France, said, this poor woman is completely still not ready to know where she's at and what it means for her. And she doesn't have any sense of humility yet, but she will. It will come. It might be a tough battle, but it just shows you can be whatever, right? You can be the dictator of North Korea. And then when you die, it's not going to be easy for you because, again, I tell people is don't wish to be famous or powerful people, because as you're more famous and powerful, you probably have more enemies. And that's again why Jesus Christ said, make friends with your enemies. Don't have any enemies, right? This is why there's so many things in the New Testament. It's like you don't understand, why is that important? Because it never ends, right? Unless you help end it. For some people, now most spirits are very forgiving. They say, no, that's just part of it. But other spirits, that's why obsession and stuff works. So it's just very interesting. So what you were born as and what profession you have in life is not dependent on your spiritual level. Allan Kardec tells us this. In the course of their different corporeal existences, they may, mean us, as spirits, descend in ranks as men, but not as spirits. Thus, the soul of one who have been at the pinnacle of earthly power may, in a subsequent incarnation, animate the humblest day laborer, and vice versa. For the elevation of ranks among men is often in the inverse ratio of that of the moral sentiments. Harold was king, and Jesus a carpenter. That's what Allan Kardec said. So hence, we should all try to maintain our inner humbleness, to know that we aren't better or superior to others. While we may be on a different spiritual level of understanding, it is our duty to assist all those we are able to help, without condescension, with love and kindness from the bottom of our heart. All the while, train your mind to focus on positive thoughts and do not look upon our fellow brothers and sisters as beneath us. Yes, this is difficult, for, as I said before, and I fail constantly, for my pride often gets the better of me. But I try to remind myself, as Chico, who once said, that I am as inconsequential as a grain of sand. Now, many come over from earthly life with deep regrets and guilty consciences. They actively seek to be put on trials for wrongs they deem they have committed. And one of the companions of Vale Owen's mother, who has been working in the spirit world for some time after she returned to the spirit world, asked the group's mother angel when her judgment will occur. Again, this is very revealing of the attitude and the point of view of the spirit world towards us as a collective humanity and individual. This is what the group's mother angel said to this woman who's been worrying about, because she's known in her mind she's done wrong things. She feels that she's, lucky in heaven, but she still feels like, no, I've done things, I can say, because I know I will feel the same way. There's things I've done wrong I don't like. This is what she said. The mother's angel said, "My child, your judgment will take place whenever you desire. And from your own words, I can tell you that it has already begun. For your own, that your past life is worthy of punishment. And that is the first step in your judgment. As to the judge, well, she is here. For you yourself are judge and will mete out to yourself your punishment. You will do this of your own free will by reviewing all the lives you have lived, and as you bravely own up one sin after another, so you will progress. Much of your punishment you already inflicted upon yourself in those dark regions from which you have lately come. That punishment indeed was dreadful, but that is past and over, and what you now have to endure will be dreadful no longer. All dread should now be past. Painful, deeply painful, I fear it will be, but all through you will feel that he is leading you, and this more and more as you go in the right way." This really tells us, okay, why do bad things happen to good people, right? And it's because they asked for it. And and when something bad, like, why did that wonderful person die cancer or die of something or die in this accident at this age, or this happened to them? And it's invariably because that is what they asked for. Why did someone get cheated out of their all their money? Because they mostly because they asked for it. Our desire to atone for our wrongs, mentioned from Jesus to Emanuel Swedenborg to Allan Kardec, to the volumes psychographed by Francisco Chico Xavier, all direct us to our most severe critic, ourselves. Our purgatory, our future trials will, for the most part, be demanded by our longing to remove our imperfections, to right what we have wrongly produced. And I've written a book on this. It's The Problem is the Solution. When you are going through trials, oh my heavens, that is giving you an opportunity to understand what you have done in a previous life. Then what you need to do is go through that trial and say, okay, what can I learn from this? Okay, I'll never do that to anybody again. Well, I will that I will wipe out from my characteristic. I will change. These trials are meant, look, everybody knows when you tell someone, you really need to change, right? You need to change your attitude. And you just know that, no, they're not going to. But when something really severe happens and they have gone through a veritable hell on earth, then they make that change, do they not? And what we're told over and over again in the books by spiritist mediums from high spirits is suffering is a great change agent, unfortunately. Look, if we could learn easily, if I could learn easy, I would have gone through the trials, right? If I just took advice by people superior to me, morally and spiritually superior to me, I probably wouldn't have to go through any of this. But of course, being human and being a spirit, right? A young, immature spirit, which we all are here on Earth. Maybe there's a couple of exceptions in the billions of people. We don't listen very well. It's like a 15, 16-year-old, 13, 14-year-old child. They always know best, right? No, you don't know anything. We are the same way. But therefore, we have to come and we must learn. And then once, on earth, then once we come back in contact with the spirit world, we realize how important it is to cleanse ourselves of our wicked inclinations. We know this because we see the high spirits are on the road to success. We can determine with our own eyes their state of bliss and their beneficial impact on the lives of others. We wish to expend whatever effort is required to attain a similar state because we see these examples. Now, some may seek redemption and others seek praise. Vale Owen's mother explains the conundrum that many experience upon their return to their spirit world. This is what she said. It's very enlightening. This is what perplexes many who come over here. They expect to find all set ready for their dismissal from their presence into torture and cannot understand things as they are. Others who have cultivated a good opinion of their deserts are much disappointed when they are given a lowly place, sometimes a very lowly one, and not ushered immediately into the presence of the enthroned Christ to be held with his well done. Oh, believe me, my dear son, there are many surprises awaiting those who come over here, some of a very joyful kind and others the reverse. Therefore, we should keep our expectations low and accurately weigh our actions on earth so we may enter the kingdom of heaven in the right frame of mind. Be prepared to listen and follow the advice of those superior to us. There will be many legions of people superior to us. And be thankful for their input, for it is meant for our benefit. Now, and isn't that the hardest thing to learn, right? Isn't that the hardest thing to do? And, it takes, oh my God, it must have taken until I was 40 before I learned to live, to understand and appreciate constructive criticism. Before that, I was like, no, what are you saying? It's so important for all of us to know that. Now, the spirit world cares about us, right? And we're talking about spirit assistance. Now, let's take another example. And this is the spirit world helping a family stay together. A recently departed mother wishes to help her husband and children. The wife died and passed on, and her husband was left with some young children. And as we live through challenging trials in life, we often feel abandoned, right? Life may seem completely hopeless at times. And this is how a father with 3 small children must have felt after his young wife died. Unbeknownst to him, the spirit world knew of his plight. His recently departed wife knew that life without her would be hard. She asked to journey back to the surface of earth to determine how she could assist her beloved mate and children. And this is what G. Vale Owen's mother told him about what she said. She was so anxious that at last we took her and arrived at evening time, just as they were all sitting down to supper. This man had just come in from work, and he was going to have his meal before putting them to bed. There were 2 girls, aged about 7 and 5, and a little boy of 2. They all sat around the table in the kitchen, a fairly comfortable room, and the father told the eldest girl to say grace. This is what she said: God provide for us all, and mother, for Christ's sakes, amen. Now, the spirit mother of the little 7-year-old stood next to her and put her hand on her head to try to communicate with her. Unfortunately, the mother, being a new spirit, couldn't get her thoughts across to the child. But after a few moments of silence, the oldest girl spoke to her father. Then she said this: Dad, do you think Mommy knows about us and Auntie Lizzie? Now, given the pressures of work and trying to raise young children, the father was planning to send the children to their aunt. And the father thought a bit. I don't know, but I think she does, because I have felt very miserable the last few days, as if she was worrying about something. It might be Auntie Lizzie. Well, said the child, don't let us go. Mrs. So-and-so will look after the baby, and I can help when I come home from school. We shan't have to go then. And the father said, don't you want to go? And the child said, no, I don't. Baby and Sissy, her younger sister, but I don't want to. He goes, well, I'll think about it. He goes, but don't worry, I dare say we should manage all right. And the little girl said, and mother will help, and the angels, because she can speak to them now, and they will be helped if she asks them. Now, the father said nothing more, but we could see his mind. This is what G. Vale Owen's mother wrote. And read it in the thought that if this little child has such faith, he ought to have as much as at least. And by and by, he made up his mind to try the thing and see how it would work out. For the parting with his children was not to his mind, and he knew he was very glad to find an excuse to keep them. Isn't that just a heart-rendering story? And these are the little dramas that go on day after day. Parents leave their children, mothers or fathers pass away, or they go into, drugs or whatever. Just, these things just, they break your heart. So the spirits went back to their home in heaven after their sojourn, and the mother, new in the spirit world, was disheartened. The group which accompanied her told her to have faith. If her daughter and husband could have faith, then the both of them would combine to form a beacon of light, which would attract help. And when the group returned, this is what happened. So they went back. On our return, we all reported to our mother, Angel, and immediately measures were taken to ensure that the family should not be broken up, and the mother was bidden to strive to progress in order that she should be able to help also. Then a change came over her. She set to work in real earnest and will soon be allowed to join parties on their journey earthward now and then to add to her little mite to the stronger service. So, what's the moral of this? Have faith and good intentions. You will be assisted. I guarantee it. It may not be assistance as you think it will. It may come from left field and think, what is this? This is not helping me. But when you look back years afterwards, you'll find it did. Sometimes our greatest failures are actually the best things that could happen to us. The Supreme Intelligence wants all of us to succeed. They're like a good teacher. They're not going to give you the answers. They're not going to say, oh, we're not going to have, life's going to be wonderful for you. And you're just going to come to earth and do nothing. Well, what would that do for us? We would learn nothing. We would not progress. No, you go to school, you have tests, you have to work. You're not going to be successful in school without working. Same thing here. As we demonstrate our willingness to learn and to stay on the upright course, we shall have invisible hands ensuring our well-being. We should also derive from this tale of the spirit realm that when we return to where we are truly ourselves, our spirit selves, we haven't finished learning and growing. Our life on earth is but a small detour within our immortal existence. We inhabit a physical body to accumulate the lessons we require to improve. Upon shedding that dense encumbrance, we shall continue our studies. There are schools and colleges where you will learn the truth about the universe and the power of your own mind. And I believe is that the reason we even go through reincarnation, if we just stayed in the spirit world and we progressed and progressed, in heaven is a wonderful environment for intellectual stimulation. You're safe. Your anxiety is least for those in heaven, maybe not the lower zone. You don't have anxieties, right? And you're intellectually, you can just go up and up. But there's no strife there to really mold our character and our personality. That's why on earth, it's not important that we all are Einsteins or geniuses. It's important that we change our personality to be more loving and kind people. That, I think, is one of the things that's very important. We've all known people who we think they are wonderful people, not too bright, right? But they are wonderful persons. Now, that person who has maybe a very limited IQ, maybe just a intellectual giant in the spirit world, but that person, he or she, may have asked, will you please limit me when I go into a physical body? I want to concentrate on my love and my working with others. And I don't want to get too high, too important, and just leave all my human interaction behind. Therefore, you never know, right? It's just as Alan Kardec said, they could become, if you think a person is a low person, that could be a very high spirit. You never know. And then a lot of people, they pass them to the spirit world. They think they know something. So here, another story from G. Valen's mother, these are just wonderful too, is telling us how many of us are stubborn in our beliefs. And I know I am. I have a tendency to hold on a concept past the point where facts have refuted it. People like me have a predilection, have an inordinate faith in their own decisions and may seem harsh even when they try to approach situations in love. And I know I fit that. And she's talking about how she helped a man who had recently passed over and was wandering in the lower levels of heaven. The lost soul thought he was alone, but in fact, his guardian angel walked behind him and followed him on his journey. The guardian knew the man possessed good traits and strived toward the light, but he had a certain hardness of heart, which precluded him from fully seeing all the aspects of heaven. As the man approached a small celestial colony, one of the spirits came over to him in that colony to see if he could be of help to the soul with the perplexed look on his face. And as the kind assistant walked towards the lost man, the man's guardian sent him the facts about who was the wanderer he was approaching. So, of course, they were going mind to mind. And in the message to Vale Owen, the spirit who started the conversation with lost soul is A. That's the person who was in the colony. And the man wandering around is B. So A walked up to B with a kind expression. He says, "You seem to be not very familiar with this region. Can I help you in any way?" And the lost soul says, "I don't think so, although it's kind of you to offer to do so." And he said, "No, your difficulty is one which we may deal with here, but not so thoroughly as we would like to do." And the lost man said, "I'm afraid you don't know what that difficulty is." And he said, "Well, partly I think you are perplexed because you have not met any of your friends here and wonder why." And the lost says, "That is so, certainly." Then the guy said, "But they have met you." And he looked perplexed and he says, "But I have not seen them, and I've been wondering where I could find them. It seems so strange. I always thought that our friends were the first to meet us when we pass over, and I cannot understand it at all." And he was told, "But they did meet you." He goes, "I didn't see anyone that I knew." He goes, "That's quite correct. They met you, and you did not know them, would not know them." "Well, I don't understand." "What I mean is this. When you came over here, you were immediately taken charge of by your friends, but your heart, good in some respects and even enlightened, was hard and blindly obstinate in others. And this is the reason you did not recognize their presence." And he says, "Well, what's wrong with me then? Everybody I meet is kind and happy, yet I don't seem to be able to join any party or to find my own proper place. What is wrong with me?" This is what he was told. "The first thing you must learn is that your opinions may not be correct." So let that sink in. And I tell you, I've been told that, you need to find the real reality, not the reality you think it is. The reality we think it is not the reality here on earth. Anyway, me finish on. This is what he again told the lost soul. "I will tell you one which is at fault to begin with. This world is not, as you're trying to imagine it, a place where people are all that good or all that is evil. They are as much as they are on earth. Another thing is this. Your wife, who came over here some years ago, is in a higher sphere than that the one in which you will be placed when you have at length got the correct perspective of things. She was not mentally your equal in the earth life, and is not so now. But you are on a lower plane than she is on general lines, in all things considered. That is the second thing you have to accept, and accept ex amino, which means put into his heart. You do not accept it, as I can see by your face. You will have to do so before you can advance. When you have done so, then you'll probably be enabled to communicate with her. At the present, that's not possible." So isn't that interesting? So the kind spirit told the lost soul that he must accept the fact that he's on the lower plane of his wife and take that deep in his heart. He presented to all of us one of the eternal truths of ascending into heaven. It is not how smart, how clever, how quick you are, how rich you are, that counts. It is your capacity for empathy, kindness, service towards others. In other words, the amount of love you possess in your heart. True love, love which transcends family ties, race, class, or prejudice of any type. Truly, when we go from the physical world to the spiritual world, the world where we live the vast majority of our mortal lives, we only take ourselves, our personality, and hopefully we take improvements in that personality. The poor lost soul did not hesitate to present the truth. The soul that was trying to help him did not hesitate to present the truth of the matter of the lost soul. That the spirit world loves us, but it doesn't mean that we are sheltered from harsh realities. This is, again, I get this all the time. I get people saying, "Well, we're forgiven for everything. Jesus, loves us. We're forgiven. Why should I have to go through this trial? Why should I have to pay for things I've done in a past life or even things I've done in this life? Because I'm forgiven." That's very true. You are forgiven, but you still have to learn. Let me ask this. And I asked them, I said, "Look, you have a 5-year-old who runs out into the street and they're putting their life in danger. Oh, now, what do? You say, "Oh, okay, I forgive you," and let that 5-year-old still run out the street? No. You either put them in a corner, you may even, some people say never, strike any type of child, but, maybe a little slap on the hand to get their attention, right? And then put them in the corner, and and then they cry, and it was like the worst thing you did to them, but you had to, and you love them and you forgive them because you understand they're young and ignorant, right? And they don't know better, but for their own good, you had to show them the error of their ways. That's where we are. It's sad to say we're that immature little kid who won't listen to reason. I'm sorry, don't go start a company and cheat everybody and also cheat your employees and your clients. That's not a good thing. How many times have you seen people do that? All the time, right? That person will have to go into the lower zone and may have to go to a subsequent life where that person may be cheated by companies that did the same thing to him in a previous life. That is how, unfortunately, we learn the hard way. So, but the spirit world, so the answer is yes, we are loved and we are forgiven, just like you love and forgive your children, but you still teach them. They have to pay the consequences of their action. If you forgave them all the time and they never had to pay the consequences of their action, you would be just a horrible parent. The spirit world is not a horrible parent. We will have to answer for our actions. And again, when they pass on, people report in their NDEs, right? Their transgressions are laid bare for them to analyze. So let's go back to the conversation with the lost soul. And he goes, is it vanity then that's my fault? And then he was told, yes, but a vanity of a rather difficult kind. In many things you are sweet and humble, and not without love, which is the greatest power of all. But there is a certain hardness in your mind rather than in your heart, which must be softened. You have got into a mental rut and must get out of it and look further afield, or you'll go about like a blind man who can see a contradiction and a paradox. There are some things you can see clearly enough, and to others you're totally oblivious. Learn to change your opinions in the face of evidence is not weakness or backsliding, but it is a sign of an honest mind. That's very important. I will tell you this further. Had your heart been as hard as your mind, you would not be wandering here in the fields of God's sunshine, but in darker regions, yonder beyond those hills, far beyond them. Now I've explained as well as I'm able. You're rather perplexing case, my friend. The rest is for another to do. So then he summoned the poor soul's guardian, and the guardian came up and to his side. But the poor soul didn't feel his presence. Then the person that he was talking to, he took the poor soul's hand and then asked him if he could detect anything. And he said, no, I'm not sure. He goes, now, and he let his hand, feel for the hand of his guardian. And he put both their hands together. And when the poor soul felt the invisible hand, he immediately burst into tears. The poor soul thought about what he was told, and when he came into contact with the higher spirit, full of love, he felt the full force of what he knew he wanted to become too. Then they were left alone with the guardian. Vale Owen's mother told us that soon this person would soon be able to see and hear his mentor. He had realized his need to be open and flexible. To err on the side of compassion is always preferable to strict rejection imposed by rigid ideals. How many of us are guilty of that? Learning to identify the difference between moments where we must be strong and untiring and other periods where we should relax and allow a different path for others is one of the reasons why we are sent to this planet. Our quest isn't easy. It is full of events that take us unawares. Maintaining a calm head throughout permits us to fully interrogate our conscience for the correct approach to any problem. And again, I want to talk about that for just 1 second. And I've said it before, our conscience. What is our conscience? It's that law library of learning what to do in every circumstance. God has given all of us a conscience. Now, we all know there's no black and white. In the spirit world, says it's not all good and all evil. There's no such thing as an all evil person. So, but then again, as we go from life after life, we understand the little gray areas of what we should do, right? If someone is headstrong and we try to help that person, do we get mad and lash out? No, as you get more mature, you say, okay, you tell yourself, evidently that person's not going to learn the easy way. Let the spirit world Let the spirit world give the trials that person needs to learn. And believe me, it's some of the hardest things to let a brother, sister, son, or daughter learn the hard way. But that's where faith comes in. Your faith is that their life has already been predetermined. And the spirit world probably knew that they weren't going to take your advice. They were going to have to live some sort of dramatic event or events that would teach them what they need to be taught. It may take multiple lives. One never knows. Unfortunately, we are a hard case, and we are so lucky that Jesus and the high spirits around him love us. And this is all part of it, that love. And because the spirit world is all around us, they know everything. And the spirit world looks at every tiny little detail. Before I discovered the doctrine of Spiritism, I believed in God, but I thought of God and Jesus as remote entities, right? Peering down at us on a periodic basis to check in on our paltry progress. Humans. I consider the situation of the human race to be similar to those first prison colonists sent to Australia, right? Abandoned on the beach with a few guards and told, okay, fend for yourself. We don't really care about you anymore. And we'll see how 100 years from now, we'll see how you're doing. To my amazement, nothing could be further from the truth. We are watched, tracked, measured, analyzed, led, and herded into situations in which we thought were our decisions. The frequency in which our normal daily life is manipulated by the spirit world is much greater than one would suppose. No detail is too small to lay unnoticed. Now, the depth of the spirit realm's intrusion into our life is revealed in the book from the Reverend G. Vale Owen, as I said before. And this is from a higher spirit than G. Vale's mother called Astriel. And he explains the care in which our lives are directed. And the machinations undertaken when Reverend G. Vale Owen began to build his church begins instantly enough with a question from Astriel. And this is what Astriel was telling the Reverend G. Vale Owen. This is what, again, these are things you will see in my book, How We Are Guided by Spirits, Book 3 of Spiritism. You will find on my blog, nwspiritism.com, links to that book. Also, all these and these Cardiac Radio streaming Facebooks, I put those on my YouTube channel. And so please go to my YouTube. There's a link to it. It's called NW Spiritism. Please go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the bell so you can get notified of new YouTube videos. Share it with your friends, and learn. And also go to my blog, NW Spiritism. That's, of course, where the link to the YouTube channel is. I put all these there, and I also have like little short 4, 5, 6 minute videos talking about some aspects of Spiritism. So it all depends how you want to learn, right? I have books, I have videos, and I have the books either on Kindle or paperback. So hopefully there are, and my books are really created to help people who learn, who want to get the information and categorize it and kind of get into it. Whereas other ones, and there's wonderful books by Chico Xavier, the whole series of Andre Louis books, just wonderful. And they will tell you a story. And in that story, you have to think about it and then think about the processes, procedures, and what's about it. And that's kind of what I've done. I'm taking all these books and I've kind of put these in and say, this is how things work, right? So it all depends on what you want. So let's get back to how they care about all little details. This is just so interesting. So this is what Astriel told Reverend G. Vale Owen. He goes, on top of your church tower, there's a weather vane in the form of a rooster. You will call to mind that you yourself decided the form that this should take. Is that not so? And G. Vale Owen kind of in his mind thought, yeah, I entirely forgot about it until you called to mind. You're quite correct, however. The architect asked me about it, and I hesitated between a fish and a rooster, and eventually decided on the latter. I'm wondering, however, whatever you have to say of it. So Astriel's reminding Vale Owen of a decision he automatically assumed he made. Now, this is really interesting. In fact, he believed he deliberated between putting a rooster or a fish on the weather vane on top of his church. Now he learns what really occurred. And this is what, when you get in spiritualism, it's like, you have some self-doubt, like, at first you're like, did I make that decision? Or if I just got told that. After a while, you just go with the flow. This is what Astral told him. No doubt, you see, these things are trifles to you, but there are a few things which are trifles to us. Now, the fact that the likeness of a rooster stands above your tower is the direct consequence of certain activities that took place in your mind 5 years ago. That is a case of creation. Many would smile at this, but we do not mind, for we too are able to smile, and some of our smiles would perplex you, I assure you. The meaning you had in your mind when your apparently not very important decision was made was that all might be reminded that St. Peter denied his Lord. I suppose you meant it as a caution against repetition of such offense today. But you did not realize that this apparently trivial decision was registered here and dealt with quite seriously. Think about what he said. There are few things which are trifles to us. Reflect on those words. What we consider to be inconsequential decisions in our lives may in fact be vital. They may be the fulcrum upon which our life turns. When it is said that the butterfly flaps her wings, from there a hurricane is born, it is meant that through seemingly trivial events, large alterations in our lives may occur. And I talk about this in my book, The 7 Tenets of Spiritism, How They Impact Our Daily Life, about all the things, even to me, these little signs and signals that I thought, well, it's my decision. Like, I went to University of California, Irvine. That was my decision. Well, in hindsight, I don't think so. Many little things, right? When I was young in high school, right, I wanted to go in the Air Force Academy. My eyesight, senior year, had to wear glasses. Took that road out. You think that was by accident? I don't think so. I think I was driven along a certain path. And when a child was told that God watches over you, little does the parents or the child realizes the true extent of the words. Not only are our actions, but our thoughts, our innermost desires are an open book to the spirits that guide us. Our life, and by extension, everyone's life around us, are on tracks. While we have free will to respond to the events and scenery on both sides of the tracks, right? We are monitored to make sure we don't derail, that we keep moving forward, because only by traveling ahead can we experience the life courses that have been assigned to us. Astor explains that not only is Vale Owen directed in certain actions, but a wider net is cast. This is what he says. I must tell you that the building of a new church is an event which is cause of much activity here. There are officers to be appointed to attend the services and guard the building, and a whole host of ministering spirits to be allotted to the different departments of duty in connection with a new place of worship. Your clairvoyant friends have seen some of these already, but only a few comparatively. Every detail is considered, not only in respect of the character of the minister and congregation and the choir and so on, and the best among us, that is, the most suitable, chosen to help you us according to the traits we observe. Not only these things, but the structure and all structural details are considered minutely, especially where symbolism enters in, for it has an importance not realized among you as it is with us. So it came about the weather vane was also considered, and I have chosen that because of its seemingly triviality in order to show you that nothing is missed. The last words what he was told, right? Nothing is missed. All minutiae painstakingly reviewed, re-reviewed, and passed on to higher-ups for modification and approval. Spirits who have attained a celestial level are part of the immense army that serves to regulate and direct all life on earth. They ascend to heaven because of their attributes, their capacity for love, and their selflessness. Hence, the battalions which surround us are an army driven by love, motivated by their desire to supply the lessons we also sorely need. The spirits not only direct, but they also add to our lives. Astral tells us, the Reverend Vale Owen, how the bell for the church was paid for. That's what he said. It was decided, as the rooster had been chosen in preference to other symbols, we would answer that choice according to our custom by giving the church some appropriate offering in response. And that offering was the church bell, for which a choir boy collected the money. You had no bell when your church was first consecrated. The bird stirred aloft, but could not utter his warning, as his original had done to St. Peter. And so we gave him voice, and your bell today gives tongue, as it did tonight at evening song. Again, it tells us so much. Actions and events, great and small, trivial, not so trivial, are planned and directed by the spirit world. Individually and collectively, we are being pushed to become better spirits. The history of the world is like an upward spiral where conditions motivate us either through times of prosperity or cataclysms brought to mold our character, all designed to elicit particular responses to promote our advancements. Right? It's, again, I cannot stress this enough. We are in the classroom called Earth, and that we are given lessons to attack, or I should say, that's probably a bad word, to mold, either to remove blemishes or to help us on the right path, certain aspects of our personality. We're not here to be rich. We're not here to be intellectual giant. We're here to mold our personality. And people say, oh, my whole life is predetermined. I have no choice. I should just do nothing. No, wrong. These events will happen. How we respond to the events, how we learn from the events, the compassion we can show others, why our life is being completely, upturned, that is where our victories come into play. Now, is that way our life is always going to be when we incarnate? No. And we are told that in some really interesting spirit communications from the Spirit Diogenes. That was again in one of the Allan Kardec's magazines. And what he indirectly said is that, and you're in the primitive planet, and we're in a planet of atonement. You're kind of like, you're on this track. You're going to go through. It's like you're in elementary school or junior high or middle school, as they call it. You're going to go from class to class. You have no choice with the classes. You're not mature enough to decide your classes. Now, that's not exactly true, because for many people in heaven are actually part and parcel of planning their next life. Although now people in the lower zone are even down in the dark abyss, which is called purgatory, right? Some people call that, is their life is probably planned not by them, but by others. But when we get to a planet of regeneration, where we are trying to be headed today, is that we will more and more really start, understanding and being able to guide our life on our own. There'll be less and less predetermination and more of us actively learning what we should be learning. It's just like, from middle school to high school, college, where you decide your classes, right? Now you go with a certain track and you've got these classes to pick from, but you really decide what they are. So that's where I wanted to end. Again, I just like to tell everybody is please tell people about the Kardec Radio Facebook page. Please share this video. Please share this video with other Facebook pages, with your friends. Please go to my YouTube site. Go to my www.nwspiritism.com. Share that site for people in the English-speaking world. I try to really go through and write articles, and I have books all about Spiritism, and hoping that helps people open their eyes. Again, this is a book we've been talking about today, Book 3, How We Are Guided by Spiritism, available on Amazon.com. And believe me, I think a lot of people find it interesting. I know I've had people write to me say, this is, oh my God, this is, changed everything. I can't believe it. I hope that helps people. And I want to just say God bless to everyone around us. I mean, it's just been my pleasure to even be here with all of you in this, this short hour of what we had. And I just, again, want all of you to enjoy your time.
I would like to thank everyone for listening to our program on Kardec Radio, and to point you in the direction to find more information about the spirit world around us. You can visit my blog at www.nwspiritism.com. Again, that is www.nw as in Northwest Spiritism.com. And if you are ever in the Northwest, I certainly would welcome to have you come to our meeting on Bainbridge Island near Seattle in the state of Washington. Many blessings to all of you, and please continue to explore Spiritism and the spirit world around us.